What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. So today I'm actually sharing two new collections from Ice Cream Nails. There are 5 polishes each, so we have the Sea Spirits collection and the Tea Party collection. If you haven't heard of Ice Cream Nails before, they are an independent nail polish brand. They're based out of Australia, but they are available internationally, and they do actually have a US website as well. And all of their polishes are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that are often found in nail polish. They are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients, and they're also cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals, and they're also a plant-based, breathable, halal nail polish line. So definitely a lot of good points about this formula, but let's talk about these collections specifically. So first we have the Sea Spirits collection, which is more of these very bold, shimmery specialty finishes, and they're also these nice jewel tones. And then we also have the Tea Party collection, which is kind of its opposite, and that is the more neutral, softer, brighter tones. So I'm going to share each collection and then I'll do a little collage at the end so you can see both of them together if there's any similarities, and then we'll talk a little bit more about pricing, availability, my thoughts on the polishes. So let's just get started with those swatches and roll the footage. So as with all of my swatch review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the Orly Bonder base coat. So I'm going to start off with the Sea Spirits collection. This first shade is called Splashdown, and it's a really gorgeous sort of pearlescent iridescent sheer kind of finish. So this is the type of shade I absolutely love. It's sheer, but it's buildable and it looks good in any amount of coats that you do. So I love the way that it looked in 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats. It doesn't have that patchiness, and the color itself is so gorgeous. Head on, it looks like this really intense turquoise blue, but around the edges and based on how you're kind of moving your hand around, you'll see a little bit more of that like ocean blue into like a deeper grayish kind of blue, and I absolutely love it. There's actually a lot of these buildable types of shades in this collection specifically, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love it. I know not everybody is into the visible nail line look, but personally I think it's so classy looking and I just love the vibe, but I also appreciate that you can build it up to full coverage, which for me did take 3 coats. So here's what that looks like. I also figured because it had that iridescent shine to it that it would look cool over black. So just out of curiosity, I tried it out, and honestly, it's not terrible. I would probably do it for nail art, but I didn't love the way that it looked on its own over black just because it's a little bit streaky. So probably won't wear it like this, but it's always fun to experiment. Next up, we have the shade Crystal Cascade, and let me tell you, my camera did not do this color justice. It's this really intense teal greenish jelly base that has an iridescent shimmer running throughout that really shifts so much depending on how you're looking at it. So head on, it's kind of got this blue into purple, but around the edges it's pink and even gold. So again, you can really build this one up nicely. Personally, I like the way that this one looks in 2 coats or 3 coats, and I think that the more coats that you do, the more intense that color is going to be. So it looks a little bit lighter with less coats on, but as you add on more, it gets deeper and darker. And I just feel like this color in general is a very good representation of like an oceanic polish. I love the sparkle in there. I love that sort of greenish base color, but I like that it's also a little bluish, so that if you're not so used to wearing greens, this is a nice way to kind of transition into it. And again, with the sheerness, I know it's not for everybody, but it's definitely the type of shade that I love. So this is another one that I was curious to see what it looked like over black. It's a little bit different because we have that green base color and it ends up looking a lot more subtle over black, and it's definitely hard to tell on camera, but you can still get that iridescent shimmer over black. I probably wouldn't do it even though it looks gorgeous, just because I feel like it would be wasting this polish. Next up, we have the shade Sea Dragon, and to be honest, I was not sure how I was going to feel about this shade. It's this really interesting duochrome orange shimmer that has a little bit of like a pinky fuchsia fleck running throughout, so it kind of has a metallic feel to it. It's definitely a different formula than the rest of the collection, and it honestly looks a little bit duller in the bottle, but on the nails I thought it looked so stunning, and I loved seeing those little pinky flecks in there. It reminds me of that metallic that OPI just did, and I think I really enjoy a metallic foil that has a little metallic fleck of a different color in there. I think it just adds a little bit more dimension, and even though you can't see it unless you're very close up, it still looks really cool on the nail. Next up, we have the shade Shell Shocked, and this is basically just the pink version of Splashdown, which I showed you in the beginning. It is another pearlescent sheer shimmery polish, and this one, looking at it head on, you basically see this intense fuchsia pinky purple color, but then around the edges it almost fades into like a dusty rose kind of shade. So it's another really pretty one. I definitely prefer the blue version, but I think this is still a pretty cool shade, and I would say this one has a little bit more of a brush strokiness to it, so you want to be careful with your final coat, but I do appreciate that it's not patchy, so you can wear it in one coat or two coats or three coats. And of course for me, with that third coat, I was able to get my peak opacity here, which did cover up my visible nail line. It still has a sheer vibe to it, but this is as full coverage as I feel like a shade like this would go. And of course I had to try it again over black. I should honestly have given up on this pretty quickly, and I did shortly after this, because these types of streaky polishes just don't work over black, but I just have this curiosity that I absolutely need to sate, and I feel like you guys probably feel the same as me, so I figured I would just throw it in. And the final shade of the first collection is Moon Ripple, and this is the shade that I was the most excited about. This is not what I would consider a beginner friendly polish. I would say this one veers on intermediate territory, and that's something that I notice with ice cream nails, bigger glitter polishes in general. They don't just apply on like normally. You kind of have to dab on the glitters, and sometimes you have to fish around and find those bigger glitters and just kind of place them onto your nail, either with the bottle brush or with a toothpick, which I'll show you both variations. But basically this one is a sheer shimmery topper, so it's got this duochrome shifting shimmer as the base that shifts from blue to purple to pink, and then we have these larger holographic blue glitters, and then we have silver hollow crescent moons. So it's really fun. You can see it took a little bit of effort to kind of dab on as much glitter as I wanted for wearing it over the naked nail. I think it's a little bit easier when you're doing it over another color because you don't have to worry about trying to cover up that visible nail line. So here's how I would do this polish. I'm trying it over black, so basically I would just paint on a thin coat so that you can get that base shimmery color, and then I dumped a little bit out onto a little nail palette, and I used an orange wood stick to individually place where I wanted the larger glitters to go. So that's how I generally work with glitters like this. I know that's kind of a pain and a little bit tedious if you're not in the mood to do it, which honestly sometimes I am in the mood to do it and I think it's really fun, but if this is a little bit tedious for you, I don't think I would recommend this polish, because I don't think that you're gonna get as much of an impact unless you do something like this. And of course, I always recommend using top coat regardless, but in this particular case, you're gonna have a little bit of lumpiness until you apply your top coat. So here's what it looks like once it's all said and done, and honestly, I love the way this looks like a starry night sky, but again, I know it's not for everyone. So here is the first set, the Sea Spirits collection, and like I keep saying, I know that this is not for everybody. I feel like this is a very specific niche type of collection, and I think it's specifically for people who enjoy that sheer visible nail line look but still want something a little funky on their nails, and I think this really hits the spot for me. It's so gorgeous. I love the colors, I love the inspiration, and I definitely love that glitter, even though like I said, it is not beginner friendly. So now let's move on to the Tea Party collection. So in this collection we do have 3 cream finishes. This first one is called Cream on Top, which is appropriate because it is a cream finish. And this one is kind of this milky, peachy, beige cream shade. And as soon as I started applying it, I realized this shade is super sheer. So it didn't look terribly patchy, but it just wasn't there in terms of opacity. Even in the third coat, I just could not reach opacity. And honestly, I feel like this would take a 4th or even a 5th. And as you can see, my nails are pretty short right now. So this is a shade that I am just not going to keep. I feel like there are way more opaque polishes in this exact color. Next up we have the shade Sickly Sweet, and this one is a medium toned pink cream. It actually ends up looking a little bit brighter on the nails than it did in the bottle, but it doesn't have a neon pigment to it. I think that this is a shade that Ice Cream Nails does a lot, although they do a really nice neon version of this as well, but this is just a basic simple shade. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary, but if you don't already have it in your collection, this is a nice formula to have. And then the final cream finish is this one. It's called Slice of the Pie, and it is a super dusty, cool toned purple. And this one was actually super opaque. I would say out of the 3 cream finishes, this one definitely had the best formula, and I feel like this is probably the one that I'm going to be reaching for the most often. I think it's a visually interesting color even though it's a cream, and the other 2 are just super basic, so I don't know that they're absolute needs, but this one I think is super gorgeous and I love the formula of. I got full opacity in 2 coats, but it was actually almost there in 1. And moving on, we have the shade Sugar Rush, and this is another one of those sheer sort of opalescent shades, and this one is actually a little bit more sheer than the ones in the last collection because I would consider this one probably to be more of a topper. It doesn't have a base color, it just has these sort of iridescent flecks running throughout, but you can build up somewhat full coverage. You still get a little bit of visible nail line, but like I've been saying, I absolutely love shades like these. I would say that this one was my favorite of the Tea Party collection, and you can really wear it over any color and it'll kind of shift the iridescence based on what color you're wearing it. This is kind of how it'll look over lighter colors, but over deeper colors you'll get a little bit more of like a pink and green and purple kind of vibe. So just to give you a little example of that, this is Sugar Rush over Slice of the Pie, and you can see it kind of has this glass fleck appearance to it. It adds a little bit of like a white-ish sparkle to it, but it doesn't change the iridescent color. And then here's what it looks like over black. So as soon as you start applying it over black, you can see a lot more different iridescent colors in there, and that's because iridescent polishes really change based on what they're over. So now we see a lot more of the green, the blue, a little bit of pinky purple in there. So it's definitely fun to experiment with. And last but not least, we have the shade High Tea, which is another sheer pearlescent finish. And this one is actually super similar to the shade Shell Shocked from the Sea Spirits collection. And I'm going to show you a comparison of all of them together just so you can see. But this is another one that you can kind of build up the coverage. It's another one that has a little bit of that brush strokey finish. So you do want to be careful when you are working with more coats. I found that this one was a little bit thicker though, so it kind of pulled at the polish that was already on my nail. So you can see around the cuticle area, it's just a touch patchy just because it's a thicker formula and it kind of pulled it down a little bit. So it's a really pretty one, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to work with than the others. So just something to keep in mind, but I do think that it looks really pretty on the nails and I think it has a nice elegant finish to it. I always love shades like this. I think they elongate the nail a little bit and it does feel like a nice palette cleanser. So here are the 5 shades from the Tea Party collection. Definitely a very different vibe from the Sea Spirits. This is the more classic, simple colors that feel a little bit more work appropriate, a little bit more safe. And overall, I do enjoy the color palette, but I don't love the collection in general, just because I feel like we have some pretty basic cream finishes. And I think that these shimmers are really fun, but I like the variations in the other collection a little bit better. I know they're not, you know, pitted against each other. You can pick and choose from whichever collections you want, but I personally am a collection person and I just like having full collections, and if I had to choose one, I would choose the Sea Spirits collection. And just for reference, here are all of the shades that I reviewed today. So the top 6, there's not really any dupes going on here. We've got the 3 creams, we've got the 3 non-cream finishes, and then the bottom row is all of those iridescent sheers. So you can see they're pretty similar, especially the middle 2 shades. They're sort of that pink pearly shimmer, but the shade Shell Shocked definitely has a little bit more of a grayish purple undertone, whereas High Tea has a little bit more of like a pinky whitish undertone. So it's kind of just based on personal preference there, but I absolutely love Splashdown. I love Sugar Rush. I just think it's a fun type of polish to work with. So those are the polishes, and overall we've got a lot of hits, we've got a couple of misses, but in general I just really enjoy the Ice Cream Nails formula and I thought they came out with some really pretty colors. I think in general I do overall prefer the Sea Spirits collection. I love those specialty finishes. I love a polish that you can wear in any amount of coats and it kind of gives a different vibe, and I liked that I could experiment with playing with them over black. Few of them just did not look like I imagined they would over over black, but that's okay. I just enjoy experimenting anyway. But yeah, I just enjoy that kind of visible nail line look, and I really liked the vibe of those. I still think there were some really good options in the Tea Party collection, but just in terms of personal favorite, I liked the colors better in Sea Spirits, but I'm actually curious what you guys preferred, so definitely let me know in the comments. So all of these polishes come in 10 milliliter bottles. One thing to note about the brand, I always like to mention this, is they do actually have ice cream cone shaped bottle caps. So you might think that that makes application difficult. I don't find that to be the case. I think the first coat of the first nail that I do, I tend to be like, wait, how do I hold this properly? But after that first nail, it's very easy to get used to. So I would still consider it to be a pretty beginner friendly brand. And they also have the wide flat brush, which I think makes application a little easier as well. But we also get from them a lot of these bigger, chunkier glitters. And I find those are a little bit more what I would consider to be intermediate friendly, just because I don't know if a beginner would feel comfortable doing glitter placement, but the polishes end up being so gorgeous if you're willing to go the extra mile. So yeah, like I said, these polishes are 10 milliliter bottles and they retail on the Ice Cream Nails website for $13.50 USD each, but I also have a discount code, so you can use the code KELLI20 to get 20% off your whole order there. So I will link that down below. I've actually been getting a couple of questions recently about the little star nail art palette that I use in my live streams. That I also get from Ice Cream Nails. So I will link that down below as well. It's just a little resin palette. It makes it easy for nail art because you just kind of dab the nail polish onto that and then it doesn't dry up super fast like it does when you use scrap paper. So I highly recommend it. I use it all the time. But yeah, that is it for my review of these polishes. But like I said, I'm curious to hear what you think. Which of the two collections do you prefer? Are there any standouts for you, or is there a polish that you are just not vibing with at all? Definitely let me know in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoy my swatch reviews, please give this one a thumbs up. It lets me know I'm doing a good job and it definitely helps me out. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. I also have my vlog channel, which is my second YouTube channel, if you're interested on a little bit more about my life outside of YouTube. And I do have a podcast, so I'll link that down below as well. It's not nail polish related. It's about popular movie franchises. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. And of course, a huge shout out to my Cosmic Admirals on Patreon, Amanda M, Rocketman's daughter, and Paola. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Pookie Bear, and Pookie Bear wants to know, what is one chore that you absolutely hate doing? I really hate doing my laundry. I'm very fortunate because this apartment and the previous apartment I lived in, I have in-unit washer dryer, which makes things a lot easier. It's not actually the act of doing the laundry. Like, I have no problem just throwing stuff in there. I don't usually sort my lights and darks because most of my stuff is dark. Anything that's light is usually just pajamas, and I don't really care if those get discolored. So it's very easy to do the laundry. The problem is when the laundry is clean, I'm very bad at folding it immediately, so a lot of my clothes end up wrinkled. But I do have a steamer, but then I'm too lazy to use it. So in this new apartment, I've actually been hanging stuff up instead of folding it because I have a much bigger closet now. If anybody is curious to see that, I do have a little empty apartment tour. I do not love folding laundry. It's one of my least favorite things to do. So if you ever see a selfie and I have wrinkled clothes, that's probably why, because I just leave my clothes in the laundry basket for like 2 days before I just get my act together and actually fold them and put them away. But hopefully having things on hangers will make me a little bit less likely to be lazy about it. So we'll see if that helps. I'm not sure yet. I'm curious what everybody else's least favorite is. There are some chores, I've talked about this before, but I just don't do them. So Ryan and I kind of have some things split up where it's like, I will never do this and you always have to do it, and vice versa. So I always do the dishes and he always takes out the trash because he does not like doing dishes and I do not like taking out the trash. So we have a couple of things like that, but laundry is just something that I do not love to do. Let me know your least favorite chores in the comments. We can chat about it, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!